So you have these cyanogenic glycosides, and these exist in things like cassava root, which is a very important root, which we'll talk about. Also, almonds and bitter almonds, they respond to damage. And so once you're chewing an almond or a bitter almond or cassava, that will release this cyanide. So it's normally not in the tissue, just when it's being damaged, right? So this is a defense mechanism. The cassava root, there's bitter and there's sweet. The sweet, both of them combined account for the third most important source of calories in the tropics, and is the primary source of calories for over 500 million people in the world. So this is a very important source of calories, and it contains cyanide. The bitter cassava will kill you if you eat it, the amount of cyanide that it has in it. So it has to be specially processed. And they grow the bitter cassava because if they have a problem with herbivores coming around eating their crops, well, they're not gonna eat this one because it'll kill them, right? And so that has to be specially processed, but it doesn't get rid of all the cyanide in it. And so long-term exposure to even low-grade cyanide can cause serious thyroid and neurological damage, and quite seriously. And so we don't have that really as a staple here, but people do eat almonds, and people don't realize that 400 to 800 grams of almonds can be a lethal dose of cyanide in an adult. And yet we give this stuff to kids and sell them in grocery stores, which I think is wild, right? And then there's bitter almonds, which are just the inside of like a peach pit. And they're stone. You crack that open, it looks like a little shriveled up almond. That's very bitter because there's a lot of cyanide in it. And one or two of those, chewed up, crushed up, will release that cyanide, can be a lethal dose of cyanide in an adult.
Cyanogenic glycosides are another plant toxin plants produce to protect themselves. It acts as a natural pesticide against herbivores by releasing cyanide, causing acute cyanide poisoning to anything that tries to eat them. Cyanide is another infamous chemical warfare agent that's been used throughout history, dating all the way back to the Roman Empire. It is one of the most deadliest poisons on Earth. Cyanide was infamously used by Nazi Germany during World War II to exterminate millions of Jews in concentration camps. The Jews were locked in gas chambers where they would be suffocated to death by a toxic chemical called Zyklone B, which is literally made of cyanide. And guess what? It's also in the so-called healthy foods you're eating too. Cyanogenic glycosides are abundant in these foods, and some of them also have oxalates, lectins, phytates, salicylates, tannins, saponins, glucosinolates, and glycoalkaloids, giving you even more reason to not want to eat these foods. Although the amount of cyanide in plant foods is very small compared to chemical weapons, it can still cause harm, especially if you eat these foods regularly or improperly cooked. When humans consume foods with cyanogenic glycosides, they degrade into highly toxic compounds called hydrogen cyanide. The human body can process and expel low levels of cyanide, but higher doses can block cellular respiration, they can suffocate mitochondria, and even be fatal, while chronic exposure to low levels of cyanide can result in cumulative nerve and tissue damage. Ingesting high amounts of foods containing cyanogenic glycosides can lead to acute cyanide poisoning. Cyanide can interfere with cellular respiration, which means that it prevents cells from using oxygen, leading to serious health issues, including rapid respiration and ultimately respiratory failure. Symptoms of acute toxicity may include a plethora of things. Even repeated exposure to lower levels of this toxin can cause long-term chronic issues. They do not bioaccumulate like other plant toxins, but repeated exposure can have a cumulative effect and lead to serious health issues down the line. Like I always say, guys, why would you take a risk with your health when you can just eat something like meat that doesn't have any toxins? Foods like cassava and bamboo have to go through an extensive process just to be detoxified to the point they're safe to eat. It's also worth mentioning that these foods used to be way higher in these plant toxins, but have been bred down over time using genetic modification. Where it gets even messier is that in recent years, some plant toxins like lectins, for example, have been genetically modified to be even stronger in certain crops, to be more resilient to pests. It's all over the place, to be honest. You see, humans are the only species on Earth that try so hard to take things in nature that are toxic and unedible and actually make them edible instead of, just eating what we're intended to eat naturally, just like every other animal on Earth. This comes with a cost. GMO plant foods are sprayed heavily with pesticides. This is because either the plant can rely on the pesticides to protect them, or it can protect itself and upregulate every single one of these plant toxins that I've talked about in my videos. I hate to burst your bubble, but either way, they're still always going to be toxic no matter what you do. Those fruits and vegetables you thought were so healthy for you is literally a scam. Not only is it a lie, but it's completely unnatural and destroys the earth. Without industrial monocrop agriculture and the use of pesticides, the produce supply would almost cease to exist, and getting fresh fruits and vegetables would be nearly impossible. To me, it's like humans are trying so hard to be something they are not. Not only am I on a journey to improve my own health, but to also awaken the sleeping population to the myths and fairy tales that the mainstream nutritional media shove down our throats. Not only that, but the whole vegan agenda, the political moves to push veganism on us and to ban the meat supply across the world, forcing us to eat bugs and fake meat. It's crazy, guys, and I got to use my channel to do what I can to fight back against this. So, in other words, guys, stay tuned to my channel to be deprogrammed from the lies and the nutritional myths that plague our society. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It'll really help me out, help me to push this word. And God bless you all. Have a good day.
The global elite are planning to close down all airports, ban the consumption of beef and lamb, and ban the construction of new buildings as part of a sudden and sweeping quantum leap to address the so-called climate crisis. According to the elite, humanity must learn to suffer until the climate crisis has been dealt with. How long will that take? According to government documents, we are looking at 4 decades minimum of severe deprivations, including a ban on new clothes. But you don't have to take my word for it. These future horrors are laid out in black and white in a British government document, which outlines the future for humanity under a dictatorship run by the World Economic Forum if we don't rise up as one and overthrow these tyrants.
This episode, we're going to talk about why we're eating a meat-based diet when we live in a plant-based world. I think we can all kind of see how schools and TV shows and our culture in general just tends to lean towards a plant-based lifestyle.
Don't require animal products. In fact, the majority of the world doesn't need animal products to survive.
Vegan couple's son dies of malnutrition on diet of just fruits and vegetables.
Point 2 continues by saying their economies and cultures are based on it. We are not superior to them. What's more, importing their commodities gives us a lifestyle that is a luxury by their standards and is not defensible. The first thing to address in this is, when have we ever claimed that we're superior to other people?
So I've been in this movement for over 12 years. I've seen people come and go. I've heard every excuse there is.
That's such a ridiculous argument. I actually cannot believe that you've said that.
You shouldn't have the choice. You should be forced to be vegan. You should absolutely be forced to be vegan.
What you're doing is creating a false dichotomy where you're saying, well, if you're vegan, you obviously think you're superior to other people.
We cannot wait for you to fucking get your shit together. We cannot wait. The animals cannot wait.
So you better not be vegan to prove that you're not superior. But it's also possible to be vegan and not think that you're superior.
You just gotta step the fuck up, or you really don't deserve to live on this planet.
Oh, there it is. Globalists want to ban meat, dairy, and private cars by 2020. Can you imagine that? They want to ban meat. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at that. Oh, you already have it up on the screen. There it is. The Greatest Reset, a report now revealing that the globalists, the climate change organizations want to ban meat, dairy, and private vehicles in cities by 2030. What are you going to do about that? You know what? These people are so far out of control. So far out of control. All they want to do, track, trace, control us.